प्रत्यक्षं हि अल्पम् अनल्पम् अप्रत्यक्षम् अस्ति.
Things which can be perceived with normal senses are very few in this world, whereas what can be perceived with extrasensory perception is more in comparison. Namaskar and a warm welcome to our viewers. In the world that we live in, we are trained to view the world through our five senses, mind and intellect. Yet there are so many things that cannot be explained by these same five senses, mind and intellect. For example, when we have a gut feel about a person and it proves to be true, there is no scientific explanation to such a phenomenon. Nor can science explain why we can love someone so completely and yet hate another that it consumes our entire life. Is it true what the religious scriptures talk about, that there are other planes of existence where we go after death, such as heaven and hell? Do our departed ancestors exist and wait for us in the afterlife? Let us say we call this other plane of existence the spiritual dimension, a dimension we cannot perceive with our five senses, mind and intellect. Does it affect our lives? And if so, to what extent? In this series, we invite you on a journey to explore the spiritual dimension and the effect it can have on our lives. We will also share with you various case studies and phenomena that defy any rational explanation. And through this, you will get a feel for how the spiritual dimension can affect your life. Throughout Samirs' childhood and teens in Vancouver, Canada, and for as long as he can remember, he had been plagued with skin rashes and food allergies. You name the allergy, and he had it.
I could only eat meat, some fruits, a few vegetables, and rice. I did not have the luxury of eating things the other kids enjoyed. That meant no pancakes, no cookies, no chocolate, and no pizza. I was allergic to all of them.
None of the modern and alternative healing methods had any lasting effects. And at the age of 25, this is what he looked like, due to his skin reacting to allergies. It comes as no surprise that he also suffered with severe depression and insomnia. Plagued by thoughts of dying young, Samir, by chance, stumbled upon the SSRF website, which showed case studies how people just like him were cured of eczema just by chanting a deity's name.
When I found the SSRF article, it felt like this ray of light was shining in my life. When I read about John and how he cured his eczema by chanting, deep down inside, at that moment, I also knew that if I chanted Shri Gurudev Datta, I would be okay.
Over the next 3 months, Samir put his heart and soul into chanting.
There were good days, and there were bad days, but I persisted. Slowly the good days began to outnumber the bad days.
3 months later, this is what Samir's face looked like. I have asked Samir to join us on this show to share with us his journey through this extraordinary turnaround. Samir, namaste.
Namaste.
And thank you for joining us and taking the time to share your experiences with us. Now, I understand that over the last 2 decades, you used various treatments such as allopathy, homeopathy, Chinese medicine, bioenergetic medicine. How do they all work for you?
Well, firstly, I must say that due to the severity of my case, I've been to leading doctors in each field in Vancouver as I was their top patient. The treatments did work, but only to a limited extent. I took many different types of treatment, for example, oral steroids such as prednisone, and I applied topical creams. But what I found was after a few days to a few weeks, I'd have another relapse. So allopathy, it was very short-lived, the relief.
So, none of them actually produced a lasting cure?
Correct.
Dr. Mansingh Shinde is a practicing dermatologist with over 16 years of experience. We asked him about Samir's case.
So what Samir had is what we call a severe case of atopic eczema or atopic dermatitis. Now, in layman's terms, it simply means an inflammation of the skin, which, depending on the severity of the disease, tends to flare up. In my experience, it usually starts in early childhood.
We also asked if there's any cure for atopic eczema.
The treatment for atopic eczema is mainly symptomatic, which means we try and control the severity of the symptoms. In my experience, the symptoms are caused due to some allergies. Now, with regards to allergies, why a particular person gets a particular allergy is unknown.
Samir also made an important observation about the various treatments he initially underwent.
What I did notice is the treatments that treated me more at an energy level. For example, the bioenergetic medicine and the traditional Chinese medicine provided a longer lasting relief as compared to allopathy. Allopathy would provide relief for up to about a few weeks maximum, but these treatments would provide me relief for up to 6 months at a stretch before the next relapse. Homeopathy somehow did not agree with me. I did try it, but I had a severe outbreak, so then I stopped.
Samir, when we discussed earlier, you said that none of the treatments ever made you feel cured. There was always something missing. Would you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, even though sometimes the skin would physically get better, it always felt like at a subtle level there was this invisible second layer of skin that was covering me. It literally felt like when I would touch my skin, it was not my own skin.
Samir, what was the difference when you started chanting Sri Gurudev Datta as compared to the medicines?
Well, the pictures probably pretty much speak for themselves. My parents were quite happy that a chant could do such a healing. The biggest difference was that not only did the skin heal physically, but at a subtle level, that invisible layer, it finally fell off. So for the first time in my life, it actually felt like I was touching my own skin.
So it took 2 years to actually get a full healing?
Yeah, correct. 2 consistent years of chanting.
So just for the benefit of our audience, the chant Sri Gurudev Datta is the chant associated with the deity Dattatreya, one of whose main functions is to alleviate problems caused by our departed ancestors. And this is how the chant sounds.
Sri Gurudev Datta, Sri Gurudev Datta, Sri Gurudev Datta.
During these 2 years, did you take any other kind of medication?
No, I did not take any other medication. The only thing I did use was some moisturizers such as coconut oil and shea butter.
And did you have any relapse during these 2 years?
No, there was no relapse during these 2 years.
So you had some severe dietary restrictions because of your allergy to the various food types. For me personally, I can't imagine going through life without chocolate or ice cream. Did any of the treatments help this?
Yeah, the treatments did help, but again, it was to a limited extent. I remember my case was so severe that one time I was just sitting beside somebody eating peanuts, and from the smell I broke out in hives.
Wow.
Now, the strangest thing about the allergy results was each year they would fluctuate. For example, one year I could tolerate whole wheat, and the next year I could not tolerate it. And then the following year again I could tolerate it. It's only when I began to chant that things consistently and progressively got better, and nothing went backwards. So now I can have cheese, bread, pizza, chocolate, even drink milk without breaking into a severe rash.
Oh, that's amazing. Samir's healing seems miraculous. But what would a dermatologist say about it?
This could be a case of placebo, wherein the patient perceived that he was receiving some sort of favorable treatment and responded positively to the treatment. Personally, I would call this extraordinary.
A placebo effect. Well, we showed Dr. Shinde another case where an Australian with eczema on his hand for 22 years was cured within 6 days of chanting the same chant of Sri Gurudev Datta. The only thing here that the person was from a Christian background and was hesitant about chanting a deity's name that was alien to him. Would this too have been passed off as placebo?
Personally, from having looked at this case study, I would categorize it just as extraordinary.
Well, extraordinary is probably the closest we are going to get modern sciences to admitting to a miracle-like healing. Yet is Samir's case of healing a miracle? Or did he just hit upon the right antidote for the actual source of problems in his life? We have studied thousands of cases of problems, which a rational mind cannot easily explain. While the problems and nationality of people might differ, we have found that all problems can be categorized into just 3 types. And this is important because the next time a problem hits you, you can be sure that it can be from one or a combination of these types only. The first is where the root cause is physical. The second is where the root cause is psychological. And the third, where the root cause is spiritual. Now let's take an example of a skin problem. If an insect bites one's skin and one gets a rash, the root cause would be physical. But if one gets a rash because of stress or anxiety, it would be considered as psychological. However, if one is born with skin diseases and severe allergies, Ayurveda says that this is primarily due to severe destiny, which is a spiritual cause. Samir shared another aspect about his disease that defies rational thought, but indicates that it had a spiritual root cause.
At the age of 2 and at the age of 25, out of desperation, my mother contacted 2 separate astrologers. And coincidentally enough, they both said the same thing, that I would suffer from severe skin problems and food allergies due to destiny, but that after the age of 28, it would get better if I started spiritual practice.
And both these astrologers didn't know each other.
Not at all.
An important clue that a problem is spiritual in nature is that if it does not go away despite best efforts, or like in the case of Samir, when it subsides only after doing some form of spiritual practice, such as chanting a deity's name, like one's family deity. Before we end, we asked Samir with a healing experience like he had, if he had any message for our viewers.
Everybody goes through some sort of problems in life. For me, it was eczema and food allergies. For others, it may be something else. Whatever the case, by taking up spiritual practice, the amount of suffering and pain in our life reduces. It means the quality of happiness multiplies. So why not give it a try? For me, it saved my life.
To sum things up, whatever problem you may have, do visit an expert in that field. But if you add spiritual practice to your life, it will only benefit you and hasten the healing process. One simple and yet effective spiritual practice that you can do is chanting the name of God according to the religion of your birth. Well, that's all we have for you in this episode. Do join us for our next episode, where we will discuss the science behind happiness and unhappiness.